All right, and welcome to Better Understanding the Bible. I'm your host, Dallas, and let's get to it. In this episode, Understanding the Context of Genesis, the Covenant Template, written in Creation, Part 1. Genesis 1, the Creation Motif, the everlasting covenant made as a reflection of the divine natural construction of heaven and earth. For if we go outside and we peer to the sky, if we watch the night come and go, as we watch the day reign over the earth in light and the moon over the earth in darkness, we go outside and watch the times change before our eyes, and we realize this is the natural order of God's holy creation. We can, by observing these natural orders and these natural systems, to better understand and come to grips with who God is and who we are in this world. And that is the creation motif that was written into and from the mind and understanding of the ancient Sumerian, the honoring of God's natural tabernacle of heaven above and earth below, creating the heaven and earth covenant. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse. Genesis 1, the covenant template of heaven and earth. Genesis 2, the beginning of the nation of Adam according to the covenant template. Genesis 1, 9 through 13, the covenant template of the fruitful covenant land, earth. So let's take a look at this process for the building up and establishing of the fruitful covenant land, earth. And God said, let the waters under heavens be gathered into one place, and let the dry land appear. And God called this dry land earth, the designation for the covenant people. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb, and the fruit tree yielding fruit. So we see the covenant land being established through the dry land being renamed earth, and from that the earth bringing forth grass and herb and fruit trees. So the fruitful covenant land, earth, the covenant template. When we read Deuteronomy 31, it's very interesting how much the covenant template is established in the Song of Moses. The time period of Deuteronomy, we do see this as the establishment of the covenant between God and Israel through Moses. This is also part of the Torah, the same book of the law that we find the covenant of heaven and earth in. So when we read this and we see the beginning of Israel's heaven and earth, it is pretty interesting and clear to see the relation to that template, as it says, then Moses spoke the words, we're going to highlight the words of this song until it was finished in the ears of all the assembly of Israel. So Moses spoke the word in the ear of Israel. And it says in 32, give ear, O heavens, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. So right at the beginning of this song, we have a clear identifiable designation given to the covenant people Israel of being heaven and earth. For we have Israel being the heaven and earth, which gave ear to the words of that song. When we continue reading in verse 2, it says, may my teaching drop as the rain, and my speech distill as the dew. So we get this association between the waters, the rain being associated to teachings, understanding, the doctrine. And where is this rain? Where is this teachings to land on? Well, give ear, O heavens, and hear, O earth, for the words of the Lord. Let the teaching, let the doctrine, let the words fall down upon who? The tender grass and the herb. Well, that's Israel. So we can see this language being established in the covenant of Israel that was established in the Genesis 1 covenant template. We get Israel being referred to as heaven and earth. We get from that the tender grass and the herb receiving the waters of God. Interesting when we compare that to Genesis 2:4, because we have the beginning of Adam's heaven and earth, in which Adam himself is also referred to as heaven and earth. When we read Genesis 2:4 saying, "These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that the Lord God made the heaven and the earth." So we have that very interesting similarity of the covenant establishment between God and Adam and the reference to their name, to his name being heaven and earth, just as Israel has his name being also associated as heaven and earth. Genesis 2 we read, following the statement of Genesis 2:4 in Genesis 2:5, we continue reading, "When no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the land, and there was no man." So, very interesting contrast here, because we see no bush, we see no small plant, but we see the dry land, and we see no rain because there was no man. So, lacking the bush, lacking the grass and the rain, and a man to work the land, we get a description here of an earth that is without form, and it's unfilled. It's void. The earth was without form. There was no bush of the field. There was no small plant. There was no rain because no man was there to be able to work that ground. So as a result of that position, then the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, creating man, the living being. So we have that interesting correlation to Genesis 1, as we are described with Adam, an earth without form and void, an earth without form and that is also void, as the reason for the need for man. Which is interesting, because when we compare that to Jeremiah 4, we get a picture of an apostate, unbelieving, disobedient covenant people in Israel being described as a judgment period coming upon them, and they would be a total desolation. And that people is described in Jeremiah 4 as, "My people are foolish, they know me not. They are stupid children and have no understanding. They are wise in doing evil, but how to do good they know not. I looked upon the earth, and behold, it was without form and void, and as to the heavens, they had no light, and there was no man, and the fruitful land was a desert. The dry land no longer had trees producing fruit, because there was no man to till the earth. It was without form and void. There was no grass, there was no herb," just as we find in Genesis 2 at the beginning of Adam. When we read Isaiah 44, we get the promise of the restoration of the covenant people. So as we see a picture of the apostate people with this language, we see the promise of restoration to the covenant people when it says in Isaiah 44, 1 through 4, "Now listen, O Jacob and Israel, whom I have chosen, and formed you from the womb." Adam was formed out of the dust of the land. "For I will pour out water on the thirsty land, and streams on the dry ground. I will pour out my spirit on your offspring, and my blessing upon your descendants. And they will spring up among the grass, like poplars by streams of water." So here we have the promise of restoration, for God will pour out water on the dry land. And when he says that, he, in verse 3 through Isaiah, compares that directly to the pouring out of his spirit and his blessings upon the children of Israel. And they are like the grass and the trees. And there we have our streams of water on the dry ground, creating grass and trees. Genesis 2, the establishment of Adam, Genesis 1 is the covenant template. Genesis 2 is Adam being established to the covenant template, where it reads, "These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that the Lord God made the heavens and the earth." And just as we find in Genesis 1, 1 with the earth being unformed and void, and just as we find in Jeremiah 4 that that's referring to a people who is apostate and set aside and not knowing God, that there was no spirit-filled believers upon the land. Well, then in verse 5, we read, "No bush was of the field. There was yet no people, there was no one in the land. No small plant of the field had sprung up. For there was no rain coming down from God. There was no man to work the ground. So the Lord God formed the man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living creature. And God planted a garden in Eden." So that means Eden was already established. Eden was already an inhabited domain. God planted a garden in Eden, in its east. There he put the man whom he had formed, and out of the ground the Lord God made to spring up every tree. So here we have in Genesis 2 the creation of Adam, where there was no land with the trees, with the grass, with the bush. There was a land with no man, because the earth was unformed and void. And as a result from this, God raised up a man who planted a garden and took that man and put him in that garden to tend it. And then the trees, the fruitful trees, eventually came out of this garden because God finally brought the rain. Genesis 1, 9 through 13, the covenant template, the fruitful covenant land. Let the dry land appear, God calling the dry land earth. Then God says, let this earth bring forth grass and herb and fruit tree, bringing forth its fruit. Day 1, the covenant template outlines for us, let there be light, and let that covenant be reestablished in the world. Day 2, divide the waters. God establishes his place. Day 3, the earth brings forth grass and bush and tree, and a covenant people are established. Day 4, the lights, the temple and the law are established. Day 5, fill the waters. Non-covenant people are established. Day 6, dominion to man. The man is created as ruler over the non-covenant people, and they are to do so in God's glory and are established as ruler. Day 7 becomes the day of rest, for God has now established in the land. Genesis 1, the standalone document which must be viewed through as a filter to better understand the covenant of heaven and earth. If you enjoy my work and would like to support me, you can easily do so at the email provided, at the website provided. And I would like to thank you for viewing this, and to let you know I will be doing a follow-up to this in the next video as we expand this understanding of the covenant template and how it will help us read the Bible, understand the context of what we're reading in the Bible, which will help us understand why we are reading it today, why it's relevant today, why it was relevant to them, so that we can be freed from all the misunderstandings and the confusion we have around these things, so that we can be freed to be needing to listen to endless teachers and endless wisdom that never seems to go anywhere, and we can do it for ourselves. All we need to do is better understand the Bible. Wherever you are, I hope this finds you well. God bless.